You can't live without a man. You're a useless wife who can't do anything on your own. Don't get too comfortable. My name is Isabel. I'm a 29-year-old homemaker. I live in a multi-generational home with my husband Mark's family. Originally, Mark's grandparents lived on the first floor, and his grandmother on the second. But after she passed away and his grandfather moved to a nursing home, the second floor became vacant. My mother-in-law decided to renovate it for Mark without asking us. I had already retired, and we planned to rent an apartment and live there while I worked part-time. But mother-in-law strongly opposed this, begging Mark, "Please don't leave an old woman behind," while crying. She calls herself old, but she's only in her mid-50s. And my father-in-law is still working. Mark, who had always been bothered by his mother's meddling, initially refused to live with her. But considering his work commute and our future savings, we agreed to live there on the condition that she wouldn't interfere in our marriage. Sharing an entrance was a bit awkward, but we thought it wouldn't be a big deal since the bathroom, toilet, and kitchen were separate. We decided to make the best of it, but it turned out to be a sham. Mother-in-law came over every day, from morning till night, doing nothing but being there, and always making snide comments. Mark has a sister who lives 30 minutes away by car and claims to be a career woman. She also came over every weekend, acting arrogantly towards me and complaining with mother-in-law. Each time I told myself, I'm in customer service, and mother-in-law and Tiana are difficult customers. I had to keep reminding myself, or else I'd go crazy. Eventually, Mark reached his limit and scolded mother-in-law and Tiana. Mother-in-law went silent, sniffled, and retreated to her room. And Tiana blamed only me, saying it was pitiful for her mother. Father-in-law came to check on us, but Mark said, "Just leave it, Dad. You handle Mom." Mother-in-law always acted like this. Every time Mark scolded her, she would dramatically sulk and lock herself in her room. She was waiting for Mark to say something kind, but Mark never did. This farce happened quite often. "I'm sorry. Maybe this decision was a mistake after all." Mark's support made it easier for me to endure the situation. In the neighborhood, there's a middle school student named Jake, who's related to Mark's family. He and Mark have been close for years, and recently, Mark had been tutoring him at home on weekends. Despite being scolded by Mark, mother-in-law and Tiana still tried to snoop on their study sessions. But Jake would bluntly say, "You're interrupting." During a study break, Tiana started bragging and then said, "Maybe I should start dating without being so picky." Jake flatly responded, "That's impossible because you have a bad personality." Unfazed by Tiana's irritation, he continued to put her in her place. "I'm leaving. I feel sick. I have a class to attend." Tiana stormed out shouting, "It's Spanish class," as she stomped down the stairs. Gradually, Tiana started avoiding Jake and stopped coming over. He had successfully repelled her. Later, Jake told me, "Those people used to harass my mom. They even picked on my girlfriend recently. I like Mark, but I can't stand them." I felt oddly satisfied and thanked him. Life was comfortable for a while since Mark had blocked mother-in-law and Tiana stopped visiting. But then, tragedy struck. Mark received orders for a 3-month solo assignment far away. I was devastated, but had no choice but to accept the company's decision. It can't be helped if it's company order. I suppressed my gloom and saw Mark off with a smile. The next day, I was jolted awake by the sound of someone rushing up the stairs. Mother-in-law was standing in my bedroom, looking very self-assured. "Isabel, how long are you going to laze around?" "What?" I checked the clock. It was only 3 a.m. "Isabel, don't think you can slack off just because Mark is away. Starting today, I'll be giving you a thorough education." "What are you talking about?" Annoyed at being woken up, I resisted, and a heated argument ensued. "Come downstairs and start with our housework." Mother-in-law left, but I had no intention of complying with her unreasonable demands. As dawn broke, mother-in-law returned, this time with Tiana. You think you can defy us? You've been too comfortable because Mark was here. But now it's just you, Isabel. And that bratty kid won't be coming either. You married into this family, so you have no choice but to obey us. I was about to ignore Tiana's smirking face and her early morning harassment, when mother-in-law's next words suddenly changed my mind. You're a stupid woman who can't live without a man. If you don't like it, that's fine. I'll spread the word that you're a useless wife who can't do anything on her own. Those words fueled my competitive spirit. Fine, let's see if I can go 3 months without a single complaint from you. From then on, I woke up at 3 a.m. to spite mother-in-law and took care of the chores in her part of the house. While I was stuck doing all the cleaning, laundry, meal prep, and cleanup, mother-in-law did nothing but complain about each task. The vacuum is too loud. The kitchen noise keeps me awake, she'd say, even though she was the one who woke me up at 3 a.m. and then slept until almost noon. I can't sleep because of the noise from your bedroom, she'd add, reminding me of the creepy complaint she'd made when we first moved in. Though I'd started doing this out of spite, the constant work from early morning to late night was harder than I'd thought. I couldn't afford to think waking up at 3 a.m. was tough. I had friends who were sleep-deprived from newborns or woke up at 5 a.m. to make lunch for their kids before going to a part-time job. If you think I'm the only one having a hard time, you're wrong. I was still naive. If I woke up early, I could go to bed early. There was nothing I couldn't do. But mother-in-law wouldn't let me. In the afternoon, just as I was about to rest before grocery shopping, she'd barge in saying, I'm into aerobics now, and start some bizarre routine with the DVD player at full volume. At night, she'd find fault with the cleanliness of our living space, refusing to let me rest even after midnight. The more I tried, the more mother-in-law escalated her harassment. Tiana started coming over every night for dinner, criticizing my cooking while eating everything. Seeing Tiana's already voluptuous figure expand while I was losing weight from lack of sleep was almost enough to break me. Do you think Mark found a girlfriend over there? That would be interesting. I hope he finds someone younger and more charming next time. I want to hold a cute grandkid. I agree. Any child from this current wife wouldn't be cute. Listening to them joyfully badmouth me, I lost the energy to argue. I wanted to tell Mark, but he was also working hard. If he had to listen to constant complaints between his wife and mother, he might get fed up and actually start cheating. I couldn't bear the thought of losing Mark. That's why I never spoke up about anything. One day, a parade of contractors started showing up at my mother-in-law's house. They brought in new appliances like rice cookers, washing machines, and microwaves, as well as furniture like dining tables and beds. It's all getting pretty old, so I decided to replace everything, my mother-in-law announced, flashing an envelope in front of me. My eyes widened. That was the money I had carefully tucked away in my bedroom drawer. How dare you secretly save money from my son's earnings? And those tacky undergarments? How disgraceful. I couldn't believe my ears. Did you go through my bedroom? Unashamed, she replied. Don't make it sound so bad. I was just helping you with the cleaning. Laughing as she spoke. I was trembling with a mix of disgust and anger. The money wasn't secretly saved. It was a fund Mark and I had been building together for emergencies. I couldn't forgive her, not just for invading my privacy, but for stealing from me. Mother-in-law, this is a crime. She scoffed. Crime? Within family? Don't be dramatic. We're letting you live here. Think of it as a gift for your parents. Just then, I saw my father-in-law, who usually turns a blind eye to her snide remarks, trying to sneak away. Our eyes met, and he mumbled something under his breath as he left. My mother-in-law looked at me triumphantly. "Oh, by the way, next week is our wedding anniversary. We've invited some relatives, about 15 people. It'll be fun. Isabel, make sure you entertain them well so I don't get embarrassed." I was so frustrated that I ran upstairs and cried where no one could hear me. Am I really as useless as my mother-in-law and Tiana say? Unable to do anything on my own? I blamed myself for a moment, but after crying for a while, I found my own stubbornness ridiculous. Why am I crying over what these people say? That's when I decided to take refuge at my parents' house until Mark returned. When I told Mark, he scolded me for keeping silent for so long. He also apologized to me repeatedly. When I told him I planned to move out the next day, Mark made a suggestion, and I immediately decided to act on it. The next morning, I started by apologizing to my mother-in-law. While my mother-in-law gloated and made snide remarks, I calmly went about my chores. When she took her afternoon nap, I contacted the relatives we'd invited. I then gifted my in-laws a 3-day, 2-night trip voucher saying it was from Mark. "Mark will be back for the celebration. You can relax until the day, and we'll have everything ready for a grand celebration when you return." My mother-in-law was thrilled, flipping through the travel brochure. Tiana, realizing she'd be alone with me, decided not to visit during that time. This allowed me to prepare in peace. Once my in-laws left for their trip, the movers arrived and efficiently cleared out their belongings. Around that time, Jake and Katie happened to pass by the house. We exchanged nods, and Katie and I shared a knowing smile. After all the work was done, I booked a room in a business hotel and called Mark, who said he was on his way. I couldn't wait for him to get back. That evening, both our phones started buzzing with calls from my mother-in-law. After ignoring several, I finally took a deep breath and answered. "What is the meaning of this? Explain yourself." Ignoring her shrill voice, I calmly said, "We'll be right there," and hung up. Mark and I nodded to each other, held hands, and headed to my in-law's house. As soon as she saw me, my mother-in-law lunged at me, but Mark held her back as we entered. The living room was barren, not even a table or TV, and all the relatives were there. "What is this? You're making me look bad." "What have you done on such an important day?" "Nobody was upstairs, Mark. This woman did something terrible while we were gone. Leave her now." My mother-in-law and Tiana were screaming, ignoring the relatives, while my father-in-law just stood there silently. "This was a decision made by both Isabel and me. We're not coming back here," Mark declared. My mother-in-law lunged at me again. "Isabel, you've corrupted my son, you thief, taking our stuff." Mark restrained her, but as she tried to lunge at me again, I calmly said, "Thief? Who's the real thief here? That was money Mark and I had saved. You rummaged through our home and used that stolen money? If you have anything to say, we can file a police report for theft and you can explain yourself there." Then Ellie muttered, "Wow, stealing money, that's low." Mother-in-law quickly turned toward the voice and blurted out, "No, you've got it all wrong. My daughter-in-law gave that to me. She's just trying to set me up." "Exactly. Who harasses their mother-in-law on such an important celebration? It's obvious who's lying here." But no one reacted, and an awkward silence filled the room. "Isabel, apologize right now. You've ruined an important celebration. Apologize deeply in front of everyone." As mother-in-law grabbed my head and tried to force me to kneel, Katie spoke up. I think there's a misunderstanding. We're not here to celebrate an anniversary." Mother-in-law froze at those words. "What? What are you talking about?" As Tiana glared at Katie, Tilda, who was standing nearby, said with a smile, "We're actually here to celebrate Mark and his wife moving out, or rather escaping. Why would we celebrate an anniversary for someone who gathered us all here just to harass Isabel?" "How dare you say that? Isabel, what have you told these people?" Mother-in-law glared at me, her eyes filled with rage. Katie then said, "Do you think we were oblivious? The whole neighborhood sees Isabel working hard from early morning, and you and Tiana have been, let's say, quite helpful to me as well. It's easy to imagine what you've done to Isabel. Everyone here has their own experiences with you and Tiana." The other relatives nodded in agreement. "What? Don't talk about me and my mom as if we're terrible people," Tiana shouted. Jake retorted, "Not as if. You are terrible people. Haven't you noticed you're pretty disliked?" "What kind of language is that, you little brat? I never even called for Jake." Tiana shrieked and lunged at Jake, but several people held her back. "Mark, you can't be serious about leaving, too. Just let the wife leave. Don't be fooled by her. You're a kind and considerate person. She must have brainwashed you. Please come back." In the midst of the chaos between Tiana and Jake, Mother-in-law clung to Mark. But Mark firmly pulled away from Mother-in-law and said, "I'll say it again. Don't ever come back here," while looking her straight in the eyes. Mother-in-law then exclaimed, "How cruel! How cruel!" and ran into the bedroom, covering her face with both hands. As the door slammed shut, we heard Mother-in-law scream, "The bed! The bed is gone!" I told Mother-in-law, who wasn't shedding a tear, "That's because they reclaimed what you bought with stolen money." I couldn't help but be amazed as I said it. To Mother-in-law, who was standing there with her mouth agape, I said, "This is my anniversary gift to you." I handed Mother-in-law the anniversary gift and said, "Please open it." Mother-in-law tore open the gift and yelled, "What is this?" "It's a boomerang. You know, what goes around comes around. Bad words and deeds always come back at you. Always." I smiled at Mother-in-law as I said this. Mother-in-law threw the boomerang on the floor and started screeching. Father-in-law didn't say a word throughout this whole ordeal. After that, we moved to Mark's new job location. Mark had requested a transfer, and it was approved. In our new home, we placed the appliances we had reclaimed from Mother-in-law's house, but we immediately got rid of the bed because it felt creepy and bought a new one. Mark and Jake occasionally keep in touch, and I've also started to occasionally talk on the phone with Katie. Katie told me what happened to Mother-in-law's family afterward. Tiana was secretly dating someone she met on a dating app and was thrilled to get married, but the guy turned her down the moment they met because she looked nothing like her photos. I wonder how much she edited those pictures. Tiana, who had quit her job in anticipation of getting married, couldn't pay her rent and now lives on the second floor where we used to live. And Jake, who was apparently very upset about being teased, started doing aerobics at home for weight loss. The noise is so loud that it's causing daily fights with Mother-in-law, and the whole neighborhood can hear them. Mother-in-law continued to ignore her anger, but one day a crack appeared in the floor from Jake's constant jumping, leading to the biggest fight they've ever had. But that incident led Tiana to give up on her diet. And now she's just lounging around the house doing nothing. Surprisingly, it turns out that father-in-law, who always avoided conflicts as if they had nothing to do with him, had racked up debts. To escape from the hysterical and selfish mother-in-law and Tiana, he'd been frequenting bars and lavishing gifts on young women. When mother-in-law and Tiana found out, they berated him so much that father-in-law couldn't take it anymore and left a divorce application before walking out. That's the one thing that makes me feel some sympathy for mother-in-law, considering father-in-law's utter lack of responsibility. Mother-in-law, feeling abandoned by both her son and husband, sought help from relatives, but knowing her temperament, none of them offered any assistance. Mother-in-law and Tiana, who've treated father-in-law like an ATM for years, are now without income. I wonder how they plan to survive. Well, given their mentality of expecting everything to be handed to them, they'll probably find a way to get by. One day, while Mark and I were having coffee in our new room, he said, "Why didn't you tell me sooner? You could have gone back to your parents' house instead of enduring all this." I replied, "Because it was frustrating to be told that I couldn't do anything without a man. I was relying on you and Jake, and not doing anything myself." After thinking for a moment, Mark muttered, "The ones who can't live without relying on a man are those two, not you." During those tough days, I realized my homemaking skills had improved, so I started working as a housekeeper. It's surprisingly enjoyable. Of course, there are hard times, but I find true satisfaction in making people happy with what I can do. I even started getting requests for my services. Mark is supportive of my energetic work life. I have also started studying to become a certified nursing assistant through online courses, thinking about our future. Mark and I joined forces. I don't want to rely solely on Mark. I want us to support each other. To protect this happiness, I'll keep moving forward, stronger than ever.